Viewer discretion is advised.
Back to Two Girls with a Case. Now, I want to apologize to you, Marissa, and the viewers, because this is not extremely long. But let me tell you how I ended up getting on this case. I was looking for the cases abroad, right? I was like, let me see what kind of mischief we can get into overseas. So I came across this case and I was like, I want to do this. But then after I started reading and deep diving into like a couple of articles, there was nothing else on it. And I was like, I played myself because I was really into it. But we're going to talk about it anyways because I'm really into it. And I just would want to know your POV. And it's an interesting little case because I was like, what? Towards the end, because what you'll see why. So, friends, tonight we are going to talk about the case of the Euston Square, or it is just known as the Euston Square. Now, this case is about Matilda Hacker. Marissa, have you ever heard about a person named Matilda Hacker?
I have never heard about Matilda Hacker.
All right, so let me deep dive. So on May 9th, 1879, we're in the olden days. 1879, a 15-year-old boy named William Stroman, he was sent to clean out this cellar at this Bloomsbury house in London. Now, he was sent to clean it out because I guess this is like a lodge, where people come in, stay and stuff. So a new family was coming to stay. So he was sent to clean out the coals in the cellar and to get it ready for the new family coming in. Well, it was on that day that he found the body of Matilda Hacker. She was decomposing. She had a rope around her neck, her legs were detached, and her hands were cut off. Now, yes, next to her was found, like her shawl was found. There was a few pieces of jewelry that she had that was found there, but this was in the cellar. So, the police has determined that she died the previous year in the autumn. So in 1878 in autumn is when she had sadly been murdered. So a little bit of backstory about Miss Matilda because she was not who she claimed to be. And Matilda is not known as Matilda. So Matilda was born in 1811. She was born in Canterbury at a church called Mary Magdalene. Her father was named John Hacker, and her mother named was Mary. Her mother's name was Mary. She had a sister. Her name was Amelia. Now, the father, John, he was a stone engraver. And apparently it was like a good little business because he has several properties. Yeah, he had several properties. One of them was like 4 in a row in Canterbury. And I was sitting here like, okay, you was making money. Now, this guy, he was also responsible for organizing and funding the addition to the clock that was in the St. George. Is this clock that's in the St. George's Tower? And apparently, this is a famous bridge. But yes, he organized and funded it in 1837. Now, this family was so well off that Matilda nor her sister, they never got married. They grew up living lavish. The father basically spoiled them with whatever they wanted. And apparently around Canterbury, they were known as belles. They would wear these fancy matching clothes, lace dresses. Okay, they had brooches with gems in them, fancy feather hats, lace shawls. Like they were dime pieces, okay? But the people were like, y'all are too old to be looking like teenagers. And I was just like, y'all are wrong. But apparently they dress more like teenagers than actual grown women.
No.
But they used to take strolls together, sit in the courtyard together, like they were very well known. Well, as they got older in life, I guess like the father dispersed properties, you know, between all of them because they were well off. Matilda had a property. She didn't want to pay for her property. She didn't want to pay like the rates for the properties. She just let them go. Now, because of this, she ended up spending time in Westgate prison. And while she was in Westgate prison, the only way she got out was because they like seized her jewelry. And I guess it was like real enough and expensive enough because she got out of jail. So this, you know, because when you go to jail, you would think that like people learn their lesson. You know what I'm saying? You're not gonna do it again. Jail is a scary place. I don't ever want to go there. It is not for me. Matilda did not learn her lesson. Okay, she still did not want to pay for like her properties, and so apparently like one of her properties needed like main water to be installed in there. She didn't pay for it, and it wasn't as if she was hurting for money. Like they were well off, you know, like they had it. She just didn't want to pay. So instead of this chick just coming off the money to like pay for her stuff, she fled. To first she went to Brighton, then she ended up in London. And when she was in London, she had fake names. All the while she was traveling, she had fake names. So finally, she well, yeah, because she was using the money to flee from the police. And me, a logical person, I was like, well, why didn't you just pay? Because you could have made more money off the revenue if you would have just kept your property up, you know? Apparently that wasn't the life for Matilda. So she ends up changing her name to Miss Hewish. Now it's like Huish. So Miss Hewish ends up staying at the Bloomsbury. What was it? Yes, the Bloomsbury house. All right. While she was here, she ends up encountering a maid named Hannah Dobbs. Now, let's pause. So apparently, Matilda or Miss Hughes was the type of person who would come in and out and stay gone for days at a time. So people didn't really find it strange that like she kept leaving and coming back, or that she was gone from like 1878 to 1879, because apparently that was a common thing with her. She just left. She just went different places. So when the police started to investigate this case, they actually came across Hannah Dobbs, who was a housemaid at the time at the Bloomsbury house when Matilda was murdered. Now, the reason why they was looking into Miss Hannah over here is because she had jewelry on her that was from Miss Hush, aka Matilda. And apparently she was like showing it off to the children who was around there, and she was using it to pay like things like her rent, you know, and like pay for her own. She was punding it off to pay for like the stuff she wanted. So she was actually convicted of the murder, and the trial started in 1879. But sadly enough, the only thing they found was like a little bit of blood stain on the carpet next to Matilda's body. Now, you know, she was obviously she was strangled, you know, and so they're like, well, because she was strangled and there's like not enough substantial evidence, we're gonna have to like let this lady go. So Hannah, she gets acquitted, you know, because there's like not no evidence. And Hannah apparently, and I say apparently because this is something I read in another article. Hannah normally looked like busted and disgusted. That's the best way I can equate it. She looked busted and disgusted. She didn't really give like a care to her appearance. But on the court date, she came and she was like all snazzy and dressed up and like looking the best that she could be. And she was very eloquent with her speech, you know, claiming that she had nothing to do with this. Well, Miss Hannah took a number from Brittany's page and went and talked to a journalist after the trial. Now, this lady claims that she was involved in a secret affair with a Mr. Severn. Sorry, the name Severn. Severn Bastendorf. There we go. He was the owner of the Bloomsbury estate, like there. So she claims that like they was having this affair. And apparently in the midst of this private affair, she gets pregnant. He is supposedly telling her to lie about who the baby's father is. He wants her to tell people that it's his brother's baby instead of his. But he promises to like take care of her, that she'll never want for nothing. And he wanted her to keep the baby. And I'm like, sir, you didn't even want to acknowledge the baby, but you want him around. So, anyways, Hannah goes on to tell this journalist that Mr. Basterndorf over here, was the one who killed Matilda, and claims that she found the body. She saw Matilda unalived, but the guy told her if she told anybody, he would kill her. And so because he threatened her, she was hush-lipped about it. But she claims that not only did he kill Matilda, he killed another lodger who she didn't name, but she say he killed him or her, and he beat a homeless boy to death. Now, the only thing that, okay, I guess I'll get there to the end of this. So after she told this to the journalist, and like apparently this became such a big case, like people would come outside the house, the Bastendorf house, and like I guess they were intrigued by the murder, wanting to know what happened. And so there was just like a lot of press behind it and stuff. And so the police actually opened back up the case again for the second time. But when they opened up the case, the only thing Mr. Bastendorf over here was found guilty of is lying about the fact that he did have an affair with said Hannah. So in the first trial, he lied about the affair that they had together. And he was sentenced for perjury. He got 12 months in jail, and that was it. So the case is essentially still an unsolved case. All right. They don't know who did it. And yeah, like Hannah was put in this museum in London. Like they put her story up there and everything because the public really wanted to believe, I suppose, that this girl was innocent. But my thing is this: if this guy is threatening to kill you, what would make you now all of a sudden want to come out and tell a journalist, yeah, I was throwing it back for him, and he told me if I ever told anybody about us or about her, he'd unalive me? Well, you're not still worried about him unaliving you right then and there, like, because you're still putting your business out here on Front Street, like he can still get to you. And it wasn't as if this man spent so much time in jail. It was only 12 months. So the case is still unsolved. Oh, and that was another part. Back when Matilda was still alive and going under the name Miss Hughes, she inherited all the estate from her father and her sister after they passed in 1873. So once again, it wasn't like this lady did not have money. She just didn't want to pay the people who she needed to pay. And I'm sitting here thinking like, all of this running and like flooding the police and being incognito resulted in you dying and like nobody even knowing about it until it was entirely too late. So they don't have a reason for the motive. I'm sitting here wondering like, why was her hands cut off? Like, you know what I'm saying? What did she do to you? Like, why did y'all detach her legs? And it was just an eye opener of a case. But yes, so that is the case of Miss Matilda Hacker. It is still unsolved. They had a bunch of like other anonymous suspects, but they couldn't really place them at like the crime of the scene. So they were never fully looked into outside of Hannah Dobbs, who was like the housemaid and the closest one to her. So, yes.
I'm flabbergasted right now. Like,
Was flabbergasted. I was like, Matilda, what is going
Hannah.
on? Mm-hmm. Yes.
Oh my god.
And then I think too, I also had like concerns because it's like, okay, Hannah, say you were right, and say you knew that this lady, she was unalived. Does that still make it okay for you to go and sell her jewelry? Like if you were so concerned about this lady, why are you out here pawning all of her stuff? And to me, that's what makes her look guilty too. Like in some form or fashion, you were an accomplice because either way, you admitted to seeing the body dead and you were selling her stuff. But yes, 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 yes.
I'm stuck on the fact that, like her hands were removed.
I
Her hands
know.
were attached like that. That's personal. That is a very personal thing to do to someone. And
And
so,
not only that, but she was strangled too.
okay,
You strangled this lady, you took her hands off, and you detached her legs.
wait,
Like,
question. Were her hands found? Or like the
mhm,
bones of her hands where they were found?
yes, they were found. Well, okay, they didn't say it for sure, but my uh, um assumption was that they had found the hands
Okay.
because like I said, but the only thing I know that they claimed that they found was some of her jewelry that was still left in her shawl. And at first they didn't even know who this lady was, because it wasn't as if they had known the name Matilda Hacker. She was going under a different name. So how they ended up finding out about her identity, that I could not find anything on. I read a little synopsis of this other like book this lady wrote, and I watched somebody else's video, and she says that her brother actually came forth and said this was his sister, but there's no cases of her having a brother that I seen, just that she had another sister which was named Amelia, and they were always seen together in Canterbury. And apparently because they did not want to pay for stuff, they called them the cheap Canterbury dolls. And I'm like, y'all are just wrong. So even in 1870s, there were some savages out here, okay? They did not care. But there was something else. Oh, so apparently like the case was such a just colossal of things that they actually ended up renaming this place. Now instead of 4 Euston Square, it is called Insley Gardens. And apparently there is like the London University is there and like a couple of train stations, and apparently like some famous people have lived there in that center. But yeah, they wanted to cover the name up about the murder because I guess it was like so shocking how she was dead. And since they never found, like who did it, I guess and that was their way of like trying to have a fresh start from what had happened.
Oh,
But yes. So please rest in peace, Miss Matilda. Okay, I don't know if anybody's ever gonna find out anything about this because this was in 1879, and I mean there has been a lot of time since
yeah.
then. I don't even know if people are still looking into it. And like I said, there is honestly not a lot of information about this case, and I wish that there was so much more because on one hand, while I do suspect Hannah, part of me wonders like, okay, well, did somebody else that maybe she owed money to, like find out that she was living there and they came and like unalived her, But the fact that she was hidden in the cellar, to me, that's like, okay, somebody within would have had to do it to know, like where to stash her body.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, how did y'all, if she was found in May, from the autumn of 1878 to May, like y'all didn't smell her up there, like nobody just knew anything about this. And I know like she was gone a lot, but I am pretty sure decomposing bodies have a smell to them. So that's why like the flabbergastation was times a million for me. But yes, my dear, that is your case, you guys. So
Oh,
I hope this gives you the goosebumps and the creeps because it sure gave it to me.
I'm creeped out because, like, I'm not over just the brutality. The brutality part.
Oh yes, and I think too, she was found like she was hung by the rope. So like she was on the rope like this, and I'm sitting here thinking, so it wasn't enough for you to like hang this lady, but you did that to her. I'm still stuck on the legs. You detached her legs
Her
and you
hands,
cut
like
off her hands. Like yeah.
no, that
So
is just it is such like a very personal thing. So I mean, definitely like whoever did it, like there was a vendetta there of some sort, and most definitely to like have her there in the cellar and for them to be so sure of, oh, there's going to be X amount of time before somebody comes down here. They had to be very familiar with like, the building.
yes, I
So,
agree. I agree completely. And then I heard, or not I heard, but I read that one of the ladies who was talking about her being about Hannah being in a museum is that she speculated that people they probably didn't acquit her because when it came out that like Mr. Bastendorf had known Hannah, they were like, well, maybe he forced her, or like they wanted to believe that he was the most guilty person
mhm.
out of the both of them. But regardless of anything, like it takes two people to have an affair, okay? Regardless, and she went willingly. At any time, she could have been like, okay, I'm gonna go to the police. And then for her to first go to a journalist and be like, let me drop this tea on you. To me, that's just really suspicious. Cause if you really cared about that lady, you should have did right by her.
Okay, wait, did she go to the journalist before or after the trial?
After the trial,
Okay.
immediately after the trial, she went to a journalist and was like, well, let me tell you about this tea. And it's like, lady, excuse me. But yeah, apparently she had a lot to say about like her affair with the guy and just that whole situation. So a lot of people speculated like, well, maybe it was like a scandalous affair. But I'm like, okay, for that to be the case, then it was like Matilda messing with the man too. You know what I'm saying? Like to me, that would make the only amount of sense is that Matilda was in an affair with him as well. Because if she was changing her name, and things like this, obviously she didn't want to be found out about
Mhm.
unless they just saw her jury and equated it to the fact that she had money. But to me, even then, that's a risky gamble. Like if she wasn't out here telling her business, how would they know based off of a few articles of jury? So that, like I said, it is just a very like it kind of like I said, it gives you the creeps because there's so many unanswered
Yeah.
questions behind this lady. And there are no pictures of Matilda. There's only one picture, and it's of Hannah. She is like on a flyer that was in the museum, and like people are sympathizing for this lady. But yeah. Oh, yes. Oh no, there is one picture of Matilda. It's a picture of her and her sister that I can't wait for you to see because y'all, these outfits were cutting up. Do you hear me? Like these were some fancy ladies. So yes, like
I
I said.
cannot wait to see these pictures. Oh my God.
Yes. So that is your case, my friends. I don't know if anybody's ever going to have any information about Miss Matilda, but let us know what you think in the comments. What do y'all think happened to her? Because it's some foul play going on in that home. I like the way that rhymes, but yes, yes. But if you do know anything, or if you do find out any more research, please let us know. I will drop the links where I got this article from. And I know. One of them is I got some information from Wikipedia. I know it's a crime, it's a shame, but I did it, okay? I did. But yes, that is your case, friends. I really did hope you enjoyed. Marissa, do you have anything else to add?
I'm just still flabbergasted. Like this poor lady. I don't know why somebody would have wanted to do that to her, but
And this is
oh my
happening
God.
in London. I'm like, I thought America was the only one getting down like that, but apparently
Someone or someone's got away with murder, unfortunately. But
Mhm. Yes,
Oh
and so
man,
yeah,
thank
because
you.
lack of evidence, and like I say, there was only a blood. Like I'm guessing the blood stain wasn't even big enough to do any more like forensics on it outside of what they did, because it was on a carpet next to her body. So that even prompts the question to me, like, well, was the blood from like her cut off hands? You know what I'm saying? Like, what? It's just weird. It's just weird that everything happened to her, and I guess because it was so cleaned up. You know, usually crime scenes, they're very bloody. You can some kind of blood or mess to tie in people. Like there's more than
Mm.
just a little blood stain and chopped off limbs. So yeah, like I said, this case, it had me hooked, line, and sinkered. And I had thought that like Hannah had got or like she had ended up being convicted for it, but she got acquitted. So we have no suspects, no nada. It is just very sad. But thank you guys for joining us for another case. I had fun telling you about it. I hope you can tell. Like
Yes.
this was a bunch of like for me, right up my alley. But our babes and dudes and all of y'all, okay? To everyone watching, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, I'm Dohisama.
And Marissa.
And we are two girls with the case. Bye, guys.